Hello, Arkansas, and welcome to this week's edition of Arkansas Money Talk, brought to you by the team of Retire Path Wealth. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio, we have Dale Colclaser. He is the President of Wealth Management, and Mark Smalling, President of Insurance Management. Dale, Mark, it's great to be with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
So great to be with you today.
Well, I know we have a lot to get into, so we're
do.
just going to get started. If we had to give today's show a title, it would be Don't Try This at Home. We're going to be talking today all about RMDs. Now, to set up the context for our discussion today, I wanted to share a quick story. You know, a lot of times I'm talking with friends and they find out I'm doing the show with you, and of course that brings up all sorts of financial questions that they have of their own. So I was recently in a conversation with a friend of mine who's 65, her husband is 70, and they've actually been working with another advisor at a very big, well-known corporate name firm for several years. But they started asking me some questions, so in return I started asking them some questions. And one of the things I mentioned is, well, you need to start thinking ahead and planning for your RMDs. And they both looked at me and said, what is that? We've never heard this term.
Right.
Our advisors never had this conversation with us. And we find that this is very, very common. And yet RMDs need to be handled correctly for so many reasons, and we're going to unpack all of that today. But let's just first start off and explain, what are RMDs?
Yes, thanks, Kristen. I appreciate it. Basically an RMD is just a required minimum distribution. There's a federal mandate. This is at a certain particular age. You have to take a certain particular amount of money out of your IRA account so that it can then become taxable. Okay, taxable doesn't always mean it's taxed. Okay, and that's why RMD planning is so important, because if we can find a way to make income that is taxable, and we can pay that in a zero or a lesser tax bracket, there comes the great advantages from proactive tax planning.
And this affects so many people because the majority of Americans have the bulk of their wealth saved up into these tax-deferred or qualified plans, right? We use those terms interchangeably. So most of this money has been growing tax-deferred. We haven't paid tax on it, and then there comes a time when
and many times they don't have that conversation because it doesn't fit into the return review question or conversation. Is what we find most, quote, investment advisors, which are sometimes lumped in with financial planners as well, are simply wanting to have a review conversation about, hey, how did our assets perform last year? Do we need to make changes to our asset allocation? And then thus is the end of their expertise.
Right.
And the other thing we see is most of the people that come to our office actually have their money in qualified plans at work. And so, I mean, that's where 90+% of their assets for a lot of them are held in their qualified plans. And so that they're not having these conversations about RMDs in the future.
Yeah, the 800 help number is not picking that up.
No, and it's not going to give you that personalized advice anyway on that situation.
No, that's correct.
So, okay, let's talk about the age requirement for when RMDs start, because tax laws are always changing, and this was an even recent law change. It's going to change again. So let's talk about what age these come into play.
Well, I mean, with the Secure Act 2.0, they've actually moved it to 73. So they had recently moved it to 72, and then it's already moved again, and it's 73 scaling up to 75.
But, most people still have the 70 and a half age
kind of
embedded into the brain. And the reason we don't want to let that go is because of the qualified charitable distributions, which we've talked about many times and we'll breach on again today as well.
Right. So age 70 and a half is still a critical age in retirement planning, but not for RMDs.
That's right.
All right. Well, we know that the calculation, I mean, this is something that you do day in and day out for folks, and I know you are experts in it, but this whole concept of don't try this at home, if you are not fully aware, the calculation can be very complex. There's lots of rules that you need to pay attention to, and if you get it wrong, the IRS can hit you with an additional 25% penalty on top of the tax that you already owe with your RMDs. This is why we are having this conversation, because we do not want you to try to do this on your own and get hit with that massive IRS penalty. So let's help folks understand, what is the RMD calculation actually based on?
Okay, so basically the first parameter is going to be your age, the value of each individual account on December 31st of the preceding year. So if you have multiple qualified accounts, you're going to receive a letter each year from each one of those. And so that's where it can get really confusing to a lot of people is because I'm getting all of this correspondence in the mail, and do these all go together? Do they not go together? Do they whatever? The other consideration, obviously, is the age of your beneficiary, and then the beneficiary's relationship to you. So there's anytime we're dealing with qualified accounts, there's always different rules for a spouse of the account owner as opposed to any other beneficiary.
Right, so some people, maybe they're just leaving it to a child, or they're single, or they're leaving it to somebody else, then it changes the rules.
That is correct, or if the spouse is more than 10 years different in age.
Again, so much to know, right?
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so we've established what the calculation is based on. What else, before we get into, we're going to be talking about some of the common traps that we see folks falling into where they're being hit with that penalty as we go on in the show. But what are some other just overarching things you want people to understand about RMDs up front?
Okay, so one major one is, as we've mentioned, the beneficiary's age has a lot to do with that. Have you had a change in who your beneficiary should be and who you mentally think it is? A lot of people think, oh, I've done some estate planning, I've named a trust, and now those are my beneficiaries. The reality of it is the beneficiary that's named on your particular contract that you have, and if you have multiple contracts, they could be multiple beneficiaries, and that's the age that they're going to use to make that calculation on. That is a common error that we see.
Yeah, well, and it's so important to keep beneficiaries up to date. I mean, I've heard horror stories. I know you have seen this happen too, where maybe someone, either a spouse passed away and they remarried, or they got divorced, and it's still going. Now the money was left to the ex-spouse because the beneficiary designation was never up to date.
That's right.
Yeah.
Or their plan at work changed providers, and when it did, they didn't update or move the beneficiaries with them. We've seen that before too.
And you still see fairly commonly in older plans, before beneficiaries are required to be put on a statement, that there is no beneficiary whatsoever.
Right, yeah. So lots of things to keep up to date with that. I know that this is something you do for folks day in and day out, is you stay on top of your clients' RMDs. You help them know what amount they need to take, when they need to take it, how much to take from which account. Talk a little bit about that process in your office, because I know that you are very vigilant, and this is something your clients don't have to stress about because you're on top of it for them.
One of those things, again, as we mentioned before, that's very confusing is you have the ability to lump some together to where we can do them, but they have to be a commonly titled account. So IRA is a common title, 401k, 403b. I had just an instance just very recently in our office where we have a particular client. Their money is still in their ERISA qualified plan because they think that's the best place for it to be. And the reality of it is he has multiple account titles inside of that, and one of those is a Roth. The rules just changed for qualified Roth IRA or Roth 403bs, where you're not having to take that mandatory required minimum distribution. But the plan data has not been updated. So they're going to include that in that distribution. And the sad part is there's nothing that the client has the ability to do about it unless they proactively get after it, because also the plan says not only are we required to notify you, but we're also going to send you out a check on a specified date, even if you haven't requested it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, lots to know, lots to keep up on. So I know that, every week on the show, you provide an opportunity for folks to call in and connect with you. I would love for you to share a little bit about what people can expect when they call today and how this relates to our conversation that we're having on the show.
That's a great question, Kristen, because when they come to our office, when we have the first appointment, we're there to kind of discover about them and what's important in their situation. So we gather information about the different plans they may have, whether those are IRAs, plans at work, their bank account information, Social Security benefits, all of those things. We gather that information. We also learn what their goals and aspirations in retirement are. We help kind of uncover that. So it's a very in-depth and trying to not only find out the factual information of the retirement, but how they feel about things and what they're wanting to accomplish.
And so this complimentary written income plan, explain the process of what people can expect.
Yeah, so once they come in, and typically they're going to meet with Mark and some other staff members in the office in the first meeting. They do a great job of uncovering that process, of feeling out what these different objectives are designed to do, of what they want to accomplish over their life. That's going to kind of be the culmination of the first appointment. At that point, we're typically going to set up a comeback meeting somewhere a week to 2 weeks later. They're going to leave our office with a packet with some basic information, some white paper, some information that they have the ability to read over to learn a little more about different topics that we may turn around and discuss in the next meeting. Our next meeting is going to be the presentation of all the reports that we've felt are important to have gone over, whether it be a Social Security maximization report, whether it be a Morningstar portfolio review, whether it's a found money report, which is kind of the Roth conversion concept that's there. All of that is going to build towards the unveiling, as we say, of their written income plan, which is basically going to be a projection for the next 30 years of what income can look like based on certain projections. We're always going to be very conservative in those projections because the one thing we always are looking to do is that each year as we come back and review these numbers, I want that to be under-promised and over-delivered as time goes on. Because the more conservative we can be in our base numbers, the more confident we are on the long-term outcome.
Yes.
Because retirement planning in the early years is something we have to get very accurate because we can't make these up as we get on down the road.
Right.
At that point, we'll outline what the opportunities that we see are. We will engage the client to ask if we want to go to a longer term relationship. At that point, we can discuss any fees, any requirements, any account opening, and all of those different types of things at that point. By the end of the second meeting, that prospect will know exactly what their requirements are, what our requirements are, what we expect of them, and what they can expect of us. And so if you're out there today and you've never been able to sit down and put all these items together, or you're simply looking for a second opinion, you're in a situation where you thought you've been served and you've covered a lot of these topics over, but you've come to the realization that maybe there might be something else out there I can do that would improve my situation, I highly encourage you today to pick up that phone, call the number, scan the QR code, go to the website, however you can get in touch with us. Let's get that first appointment set up. Let's get the data information sent out to you and get that back to us. Let's get you started down your retire path so that you can see what your future can look like.
Wonderful. Dale, Mark, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call is on the bottom of your screen, 866-724-3893. Or as Dale said, you can take out your smartphone and simply scan that QR code down in the bottom right-hand corner, and that will get you connected as well. When we come back, we're going to be going through the 6 common traps that we see people fall into and make when it comes to their RMDs, because we don't want you to make those same mistakes. Stay with us.
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Ben. Hey, birthday party for Carol and 5. Happy birthday to you.
Good morning, Ben. Happy Monday.
Daryl's birthday, be there or be square. Happy birthday to you.
As you can see from our quarterly report on slide number 62, we're trending in the right direction. All signs point to a very positive outlook for the next several years. If you peel back the onion
Ben, do you have anything to add?
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
Welcome back to Arkansas Money Talk, brought to you by the team of Retire Path Wealth. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, here with Dale Cole-Clazier and Mark Smalling. We are talking today all about RMDs, your required minimum distributions, and the rules can be incredibly horrific and complex. It's almost like they've written the rules to try to trip people up, right?
Yeah.
And so I know that this is something you have so much expertise in, and you love being able to help your clients so that they don't have to stress about it. But we've called today's episode, Don't Try This at Home. There's several common traps and mistakes that we we see people unknowingly make when it comes to their RMDs, and we want to make sure that you avoid making those mistakes as well. So let's dive into these 6 common traps. The first one, it's very interesting. The first RMD, technically, if you want, you can defer it until April 1st of the year following the year that you turn 73. That's what the law allows. Why can that be a common trap?
Well, because most people think that once they've made that first one, they've done what they're responsible for the year. Where the reality is, if you continue to read the rest of that rule, it says, yes, you can do this, but then you also have to take your second one before the end, December 31st of the end of that year.
Right.
So if you do the deferral process, you literally need to then make 2 distributions in that first year.
And so that could put us in a higher tax bracket that year, and
Right.
there's a lot of unintended consequences of
Yes.
deferring that.
So again, just because you can defer doesn't necessarily mean that you should, right?
That's correct.
All right. Trap number 2, this is an interesting one. Failure to adjust your RMD if you're still working. Talk about that.
Well, the reality with that one is that each year, if I have an IRA account that's outside of my employer-sponsored plan, I don't have to count into those. I can defer that option out.
If you're still working at that company,
if
right?
I'm, yes. Thank you for that. This very particular point is at that company. If I've got 4 401k plans from prior employers, they are not exempt. They must be calculated
Right.
and have the distributions taken from them at that point.
Yep, and this happens to so many people. I think the average stat is that most Americans on average have 5 old dormant accounts floating around out there. So if you left an old 401k, an old workplace retirement plan behind, you forgot about it, RMDs come knocking, you don't realize it's time to take it, wham, you're hit with that penalty.
That's right.
Yeah, so important to stay on top of that. All right, trap number 3, failure to use the account value as of the prior December 31st. I know we mentioned this, but we can't stress this enough. So talk about the problem that people can easily fall into.
Right. I mean, well, a lot of people don't know that that's the date that they're supposed to use to to calculate that from. They just think whatever their benefit amount is when they think about doing their RMD is just what they should calculate it from, and values vary so much. But that's the rule. It's December 31st of the previous year.
Yeah, and nothing's worse than thinking you're satisfying the requirement and doing it, but if you base it on the wrong account value, guess what? Wham, you're going to be hit with that 25% penalty.
Right, no difference. That's right.
All right. So then next trap, let's see, looking at my notes here, we have number 4, which is failure to take your RMD from the proper account.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and so the idea is, we've kind of mentioned this already today, is that the accounts have to be titled the same. If it's an IRA, yes, I can lump those together usually and make one distribution from one account, and that's okay. But what I can't do is I can't then lump the amount from a 401k or a 403b or any of the other vast array of acronymed accounts that are out there. If I take them all out of my IRA, even if I take enough to satisfy the rest of them, that is not going to satisfy the rule.
Right, and then wham,
Yeah.
another 25% penalty,
So if
right?
you've got those 4 scattered around the different places, you've got to take all those different RMDs, and it
Right,
complicates things.
That's when it may make a whole lot of sense to begin to consolidate those accounts.
Absolutely. I feel like we need a buzzer on this desk for every time the penalty can come into play. Like, wham, there it is again, right?
Yeah, and it's not going to say easy button.
No, for sure not. Well, okay, moving along now, trap number 5, failure to calculate your life expectancy annually. We see a lot of people fall into this one when they're trying to do it on their own. So talk about that.
Right, because the idea is that when you typically start, each age is going to have its own percentage calculation. Each year as I get older, that percentage calculation grows. It gets slightly a little bit larger. And if I'm not using the right calculator, I can then short the amount that I take out of my required minimum distribution that's there. The other is if I'm not properly using the table, if my spouse is more than 10 years age disparity, or it's a beneficiary besides my spouse.
Yeah.
The other one that kind of comes into play, and I think we're going to breach on this one next, so I don't want to get too far ahead with that, but if it's a beneficial IRA that I've inherited, gosh, that's when it really can get confusing as to what number to utilize.
Right, for sure. So, and again, with life expectancies, I mean, the reality is every year that we're alive, we are getting 1 year closer to the end of our life expectancy, and that's why the calculation changes.
Yes.
That's right.
A lot of people think, oh, this is what I took last year, I can just take it again.
Right.
Same, doesn't work that
Yeah,
way.
no.
All right. So to your point, Dale, let's move on to trap number 6. Again, this is so important to understand because the tax laws have recently changed surrounding this as well. failure to handle RMDs from inherited IRAs correctly.
Right.
This is a big one.
Right. The big one with the inherited IRA is that I may have inherited this in this tax year. If the prior beneficiary of the account, the owner, has not taken the RMD, you then must require to then take it by the end of that tax year. So a lot of people, this is possibly a time of grieving. It's something I'm not really thinking about.
Right.
But if that account has been moved into my name and I've not paid any attention to it, I've still got to go make that distribution before the end of the year, and that just may not be what I'm thinking about.
Right. Well, and a lot of people now are struggling with this too, because it used to be if you inherited an IRA, you had the rest of your lifespan.
You could stretch it.
You could stretch it, right? But talk about the recent change.
Yeah, now we have to do it over a 10-year period. So it actually has to the dollars have to come out over the next 10 years. Yeah.
And that can really, there's $84 trillion that are set to pass from the baby
That's crazy,
boomer
isn't it?
generation down onto Gen X and millennial. A lot of times the people who are inheriting that money are in their higher earning years. So now the fact that you have to withdraw that money, take those RMDs over 10 years, well, now that could really bump you up if you're inheriting that into a higher tax bracket, and wham, you're hit with.
Well, especially if your choice is to continue to defer for another 10 years, and then we're still going to be in our working years at that point, and
Right.
now we have no choice but to take the full lump sum all at one time.
Yeah, so tax planning definitely is so crucial with all of this.
That's correct.
That's a lot of traps people can fall into.
Yeah, yeah. There are definitely a lot of traps out there. One of the things we want to offer out to you today is the opportunity to miss and avoid those potential traps. So reach out, pick up the phone, call the number. Let's get that first appointment set. Make sure you let us know that inherited IRAs or required minimum distributions are your primary concern. We're happy to put together a plan to help minimize the effect of the taxes on that, because the reality of it is the less you pay in tax, the more money we get to keep. Our entire goal every time is to put the most net spendable dollars in our clients' pockets, and we would love the opportunity to do that for you.
Wonderful. Well, Dale, Mark, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call to receive your very own complimentary written income plan from Dale and Mark and the team at Retire Path Wealth is there on the bottom of your screen. Simply call 866-724-3893, or again, you're welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. When we come back, what if you don't need the money from your RMDs to live off of? What are some ways you can actually use your RMDs to create greater tax efficiency throughout your full financial plan? Stay with us to find out.
When was the last time you saw your financial professional? Are you getting the most out of the strategy that was created for you? Although you've done a great job finding someone to help plan for your future, are you 100% sure that you were given the right strategy? We can help answer these questions and more with a complimentary second opinion evaluation. We will take a look at what you have in place and then help determine if you're well positioned to get the most out of your future retirement income. In the event that it is not, we can help by making suggestions and showing you how to get on the right path. You wouldn't get just one opinion when it comes to a major health decision, so why would you treat your most important financial decision with such disregard? Call today for your no-cost, no-obligation second opinion evaluation to see if you're getting the most out of your retirement income plan.
Welcome back, Arkansas. You're watching Arkansas Money Talk, brought to you by the team of Retire Path Wealth. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Dale Colclaser and Mark Smalling. We've been talking today all about RMDs. We titled the show, Don't Try This at Home, and in our last segment, we detailed all the reasons how these can go wrong, why no one should be trying to navigate these on their own, because the rules are so complex and complicated. But one of the things we also need to talk about, I know you meet with a lot of folks who are of RMD age, that now age 73. They need to take that money out, but they don't necessarily need to live off of it. What are some strategies that you can use the RMDs for to help people actually create greater tax efficiency throughout their full financial plan?
Well, Kristen, that is correct. We meet with a lot of people that just don't need them. And in fact, all they do is they increase their income to the point where they're oftentimes in higher tax brackets. And so one of the things we can start doing as early as 70 and a half is actually use qualified charitable distributions, or QCDs, where they can actually take the money directly from that account and have that money sent from their account to a qualified charity. So those are going to be qualified 501c3 churches and other qualified charities that fall under that, where their dollars are never coming into their bank accounts. So they're never being taxed. And especially if someone is taking advantage of using their standard deduction on their taxes, if they're making the contributions directly to the charity, they're only able to write off up to $300 per person or $600 as a couple on their tax return. And this way, they get the full credit for sending the dollars in out of that. It's helping to satisfy their RMD requirements if they are RMD age, but it's also allowing them to give the money directly to the charity without increasing their taxable income.
liability. Yeah.
Well, and another lesser known, but more commonly being utilized option is donor advised funds. We literally have the ability to where we can take a substantially larger distribution and then contribute that money to a donor advised fund where I'm going to get full credit for that contribution in that year. This would probably be more for the person who is already utilizing a standard deductions because of, using itemized deductions as opposed to the standard deduction in this particular case, because I'm going to try to make that itemized deduction larger to where I can take a larger chunk out of my IRA, put that into the donor advised fund, get a full itemized deduction for that amount, and then make multiple years worth of contributions to the charity out of that donor advised fund over time.
So many strategies that can be employed. I love that you're staying on the pulse of this, because we know tax laws are always changing as well.
That's
so
right.
it's really an individual situation. Everyone's situation is different, but it is good to know that there are strategies that you can utilize that help you navigate the tax bill that can come with RMDs.
Oh, right, because it's coming. And the reality of it is there's no way around these things if we don't do something about it.
Right.
It's just like the same we say with estate planning and with some other options. Just because you choose to fail to plan doesn't mean there's not a plan in place for you.
Right.
It just may not be the one that's advantageous for your situation.
Absolutely. Well, I know go ahead, Mark.
Well, yeah, I mean, because the IRS has a plan. If you don't, they've already got one set in place.
And they're never going to be upset if you unknowingly send them even more than what you are legally required to, right?
That's absolutely
agreed.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've covered a lot of ground today, but what parting words would you share with our viewers on this important subject?
Okay, that RMDs are important, that they're a part of your plan whether you want them to be or not. If we start early enough, it's something that we can put a proactive plan in place to avoid the negative consequences of it possibly. And if you have a humongous IRA account, obviously, what we want to do is minimize that effect over time, not just over your lifetime plan, but also to be thinking about the effect on your beneficiaries. We never, or very seldom, at least, derive tax planning to pay the taxes for the kids later. That's not the objective. But I think most people that we talk to, and you're probably going to be one of those, that says, I've accumulated these assets and I want them to transfer as efficiently as I possibly can. So pick up that phone today, give us a call, let's get that first appointment set, and let's get a tax efficient plan put in place for you.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. Be safe, be happy, be blessed. We look forward to being back with you next week.